Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. Created by speakers for speakers. It's your fast track to sharper skills, bigger impact, and a smarter speaking business. Subscribe and download using the link below. And step into the spotlight.
You didn't start your business to chase leads or get ghosted by prospects. You started it to create impact, build a legacy, and work with clients who truly value your expertise if you're anything like me. Our guest today is going to help you build a future where your calendar is overflowing with high-paying, right-fit clients who truly value your expertise. You know, the kind of clients you deserve to be working with and earning the money you deserve to be making and having the impact that you want to make. Angelique Rewers is the CEO of BoldHaus, an Inc. 5000 recognized company and a leading expert in helping small businesses land big corporate clients. She's named by Inc. magazine as the undisputed champion for small business owners. She's been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, and CNBC, and she's helped thousands of entrepreneurs around the world grow strategic partnerships. She's a longtime supporter of National Speakers Association. I invite you to help me welcome Angelique.
I am thrilled to be here. I'm looking forward to this conversation, Gina.
Oh, me too. It's just going to be wonderful because I know you have helped so many people and you're going to help our folks here today. So one of the things that is on my mind is the fact that speakers know that there's so much opportunity with corporates and other organizations besides just doing keynotes. What kind of suggestions can you make? And what's the biggest untapped opportunities that you see speakers missing?
Oh, I love starting the conversation there. So the first thing to look at is what purses, money pots, if you will, inside these organizations that you are really tapping into. Obviously, stages, keynotes are one of the greatest ways to get visibility in front of senior leaders across an organization, but that should really be just the first entry point with an organization. There's so much more impact beyond that. So let's look at both of those things for just a second. The first are those pots of money inside of organizations. For a lot of speakers, one of the first things that we notice is that they're talking to a handful of senior executive job titles from organization to organization. They might be used to dealing with the internal meeting planner or the head of corporate communications or the head of sales, for example. But really, there are budgets all over organizations, not just at the cost center, not just at the corporate headquarters side of the business, but every one of those profit centers inside of an organization, every one of those lines of business, those business units that are producing the things that companies sell. And those senior executives are the ones with profit and loss, P&L responsibility. And they have large pots of money that they control and that they get to bring speakers in for their all hands meetings, their top leaders meetings, their kickoffs and offsites and voice of the customer meetings. So I would just really encourage speakers to go wide in their relationships. Years ago, we had an executive from AT&T speak at one of our BoldHaus annual growth summits, and she said to the audience, "Don't be skinny." And everyone and she said, skinny in your relationships. And I've just always loved that expression. So you really want to be wide across these organizations. And then the other thing is to make sure that, and we'll talk more about this, I'm sure, as the conversation continues, but that you are going deep with your transformation into these organizations. You're going to have a very light touch impact with a talk. There's so much transformation that can happen. And a lot of speakers, when they step off a stage, are stepping over the dollars on their way out the door. And that means they're stepping over that lasting impact inside these organizations as well.
Oh, I love that stepping over the dollars phrase. Tell me more about that. And what's an instance where you've seen someone really step up, stepping over the dollars?
Yeah, well, let's start with this. We've all heard this before, but yet it often doesn't sink in. It costs us 17 times more money to get a new client than to keep an existing client. So, one of the things that I really would love to have everybody who listens to this podcast episode do is get with your bookkeeper and really look at the lifetime value of every single one of your clients. Understand what your benchmark is in that right now. Where are you with that? And whatever that is, know that the ceiling on that, the multiplier effect that you can have by increasing that value that you're delivering, that equitable exchange of value with every client, really has no limits. For a lot of the clients that we start working with, it's anywhere from 20 to 100 times greater in the lifetime value of that client. And part of that goes to your entire business development strategy. It starts long before an organization reaches out to you or you reach out to them in terms of how you're positioning your organization and what your transformation is as a change agent that you're bringing into that organization. And a lot of folks think that if they do a fantastic job on the stage, that that's going to lead to more work with that organization when nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, you've now scratched that itch and you've delivered what they needed in the short term. So they're checking that box and they are mentally moving on. When an organization reaches out to you or you reach out to them and they want to have that initial conversation, that's when curiosity is the highest. And it's when you have the most leverage in that relationship. You only get that bite at the apple one time to anchor and position your firm and to paint the picture of what a long-term journey looks like with you, whether that's multiple keynotes, if that's your singular business is keynoting, then what would that series of keynotes look like for that organization? A lot of folks, obviously, who are members of NSA, speaking is just one pillar in their business. They have consulting, they have training programs, they have coaching programs, they have professional services on the back end. But you need to paint the picture of that client journey way early on. Your website needs to paint that picture, your content marketing needs to paint that picture, and that very first conversation needs to lay out that journey, no matter how urgent, no matter how much that decision maker wants to take control of that conversation, you really get to control it. It's your sales process and making sure they understand. So for us, when we see, when we're working with someone and we're saying, let's build that capabilities briefing, let's show what that client journey looks like. We're looking at everything from consulting services to offsites for the executive leaders, facilitating those, coaching, and of course, the easiest one, the most scalable one are training programs so that the message, scales down, it cascades down from the stage beyond just the people in that room to every other human being in that organization as far and wide as the organization wants it to go, infinitely scalable, super high profit margin on training, and you can bench it. You don't always have to be the one who's doing all of the training. It's easy to get people to deliver that. But really thinking about that lifetime value, Gina, and thinking about taking control of that sales process so that you don't get pigeonholed into a once and done dead end delivery model, which is exhausting.
Well, you are so right. And I've seen so many speakers that they have the one keynote, the one and done, as they say. And yet the ones who have really built a lasting business and a much bigger impact and a lot more revenue are the ones who do have that training that, again, they're the door opener. They go and do the keynote, and then the door that's opened is for the training. For someone who hasn't set up that sort of a bench, as you call it, and training system, what are some of the basic steps that you recommend that they consider to know whether that's going to be a good fit for them? Because I know that leading a group of trainers is not always the right personality fit for some speakers.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting question. I think my bias is always around the perspective that you are running a business and you are in the business of marketing and selling the thing that your company does, not in doing the thing that your company does. And so that's a bit of our bias at BoldHaus in terms of our point of view about entrepreneurship and business. And I think one of the things to remember is and I'm not the first person who said this, goodness knows who was, but this is a question of not asking how, but who. So even if you're not the person who enjoys project managing a bench of trainers, then you have to ask yourself, who would be, one of the corporate expressions is one throat to choke. So who would be the one person that you could hire as your fractional COO or your project manager that's going to manage all of those people if you choose not to do that yourself? I think that's really a very valid business model. But to put everything on your shoulders, we have one of our members here at BoldHaus who's also a member of NSA. At one point, she was doing over 60 keynotes a year. That is a lot of time on an airplane. And that's great. And also, there comes a time in your life where maybe you don't want to keep up that pace in your life. And you have to ask yourself, how am I going to scale? How am I going to still have some control over my personal life? Maybe it's just because you're getting close to retirement. Maybe it's because you're at a point in your life where you're raising young children, or you just want to enjoy more time traveling, whatever it is. What is going to be that path to scalability that doesn't always require you personally being on a plane or being on a stage? One other thing I'll just add, because I think a lot of folks want to go into the training space because it makes so much sense for a speaker, but they don't always know if that content is going to be effective. And so I just have to, this is a bit of a PSA here, but please do not build a training program for online that you have not delivered at least 8 to 10 times in person, that organizations are going to invest in it. And you've been in the room with real people inside of organizations as they've received that content. They've gone through the exercises you had planned. You've been able to do pre and post measuring. The biggest mistake we see, other than folks just not having something to sell on the other side of their talks, is jumping into creating something because they think they should create it and then sell it. And they often create it for some type of online learning management system. They've never delivered it in, quote unquote, the classroom with real people. And then it falls flat. They might spend 6, 12 months building that. And it's not what organizations want. It's not really ready for prime time. So don't do that. And the last thing is, remember, there are a lot of amazing people out in the world who are curriculum designers. So you don't have to be the person. It can take 12 to 24 hours to create 1 hour of workshops for a company. So that ratio is pretty high, but you don't have to do it yourself. You can get it out, especially now with ChatGPT and Zoom and transcripts, and get it all organized and hand that off to a curriculum designer who can make it magical for the learner. So this is a who, not a how in many respects.
Oh, I love that. So important to bring in the right team members as well as the right tools. And you mentioned ChatGPT, and AI is certainly a passion of mine. I'm helping a lot of clients navigate AI to build their business. What are some of the tips that you're sharing with your clients today to help them use AI effectively and still keep their selves front and center?
Yeah, well, oh my goodness, everybody has a point of view on AI these days. The most important thing that I can share with everyone about AI is actually from the decision maker's point of view and the people that you're selling your keynotes, you're selling your talks to, as well as whatever services that you're selling as your back end behind your speaking that you're doing. AI is sucking all of the oxygen out of the room today. You can go into any organization on the planet right now, and every meeting, every long range strategic plan, every earnings call, every top leaders meeting, every sales boondoggle, every voice of the customer meeting, every conference that you go to in the corporate and B2B space, it all comes back to AI. I spoke at a big supply chain event late last year, and it didn't matter whether folks were in my session, which was not meant to be about AI, or any of the other sessions I attended while I was in Washington, D.C., every conversation came back to AI. But here's what's really fascinating that's going on right now. And I pulse our target market all the time. I'm always out there scoping out people's websites. And this is really fascinating. And it's a really big deal right now for speakers, especially. But I see it with consultants, coaches, trainers, service providers. If I go to your website right now, do you have a headline somewhere on that homepage? If I go to your LinkedIn profile, do you have right in your about section, this is how my keynote, let's just stick with keynote here for a second. This is how this keynote supports your organization as it transitions to AI. If your people are going through AI, if you're doing a reorg around AI, if you're changing workflows because of AI, if your product mix, if your service mix is changing because of AI, if your customers' buyer behaviors are changing, if your marketing is changing, if you're retraining your entire workforce, like several of the big companies have come out and said that they're doing just in the last month, that they're training hundreds of thousands of employees on AI. Tell me how your keynote will directly support our leaders or our people as they go through this very stressful, overwhelming period of existential change, right? I need to see it. Don't leave it to the marketplace to here's a great example. I had a conversation with someone who said, well, of course my talk, can help with anything that organizations are doing around AI, but it's not just AI, it can help with anything. So I'm looking at their website and I'm saying, so you're expecting me as a decision maker, a crazy busy decision maker, to read your topic and do all of the mental gymnastics of trying to mentally connect the dots backwards between what I'm dealing with right now with retraining 175,000 employees on how to use AI better in my workplace, get rid of certain departments, do layoffs, change our workflow, change our policies. And I'm supposed to figure out that your keynote could help inspire our people or make them more open to change. So what I'm saying to you is you actually have to say the words. You actually have to spell out for the marketplace. If your workplace is doing any of these things related to AI, this talk is the perfect thing to help your leaders or your people do what? Have more energy, not be afraid, lean into the change behavior, whatever it is that your talk does. And this is how we can help customize it to your workplace right now. And you're not seeing it. I mean, I look at thousands of coaches and consultants and speakers' websites over the course of 2 to 3 months, and it's not there. It's missing. And I think that's my advice is stop making it hard. Stop making it the job of your target market to connect that dot. You have to do all that work for them.
Oh, I love that. That is so good. And speaker friends, if you didn't take that note already, jot your number to a pencil and pick the replay button. And there is a huge to-do to take care of within the next 24 hours is my suggestion. Be a fast action taker so that you'll get important things like this done.
Oh my gosh, next 24. And if I may just add, remember too, you have to train AI right now to recommend you when a leader is going, and this is really where your expertise I know comes in as well, Gina, but we have to tell AI, and this is through those LinkedIn newsletters and those blog articles and that media coverage that you get for yourself, you need to make sure that you are positioning yourself. We have 5 rules of business at BoldHaus. Rule number 1 is follow the money. And right now, all the money is going to AI. So that's where you have to play. And that's not going to change for the next 5 years. So this isn't like this isn't like milk in the refrigerator that expires next week. Like this is what is going to dominate for years and years and years.
Okay. Did you want to share those other 5 rules?
Yes. The first rule is, like I said, follow the money. And follow the money means follow the money in the marketplace, where organizations are putting all of their dollars and which industries are flush with cash, because you don't want to be trying to swim upstream. You might as well put yourself in the flow of where all the money is headed. Put yourself there and you are getting the wind in your sails. The second rule is to know thyself and really understand your strengths, understand what makes you thrive, understand how to set yourself up for success. The third rule of business is grow where you are planted. Grow where you are planted. It is amazing how many experts start a business and go running from wherever their professional background was. And in part, because many of us start a business, I'm a corporate escapee myself. Many times people start a business because they really needed to break free of some career path. And yet, you know the lingo, you have the relationships there, you know the industry associations, you have deep expertise that brings instant credibility. So grow where you're planted. That also goes for geographically. When you think about the big conferences that come to your backyard, when you think about the big types of companies and industries that are in your backyard, you need to own that backyard. It's just common sense that anyone who's in a 100-mile radius of you, that you are the first call that they make. The fourth rule is dream big, start small, move fast. And I think that's the part that people really miss, is that moving fast. They've got a big dream, but they don't bring it down to, but what can I affect? What action can I take right now? And the last rule of business, and this is really where, my heart and mind is at all times, and that is that conversations create cash flow. It's amazing how much time people spend, we say, getting gold stars and not gold bars, meaning checking lots of things off their to-do list, being very, very busy, but not focused on booking conversations every day of the week with real decision makers. You're not selling on Etsy. You're not running a Shopify store or reseller on Amazon. When you're an expert, keynote speaker, consultant, what have you, you have to have conversations with decision makers. And if you don't master those conversations, that's really our secret sauce. That's sort of our Big Mac secret sauce at BoldHaus, are those conversations, because every road leads to a conversation with the decision maker. And it's amazing how many folks just wing those conversations, or they let the decision maker lead the conversation and they just respond to whatever the decision maker is asking, instead of saying, wait a second here, I've put everything in my life into this business, and all of my marketing is designed to lead to one path, which is a conversation with me. So that's the most important thing that you have to know how to do in your business. But more so than being a great speaker, you have to know how to have conversations with decision makers. So conversations are what create cash flow, and they really reign supreme over everything else that you do in your business. So those are our 5 rules of business. And it's really interesting, because those have been our 5 rules now for 19 years. And no matter what has changed in the marketplace, those rules never changed. They're really the guiding principles when you're an expert-based business.
Those are very powerful. I love that, the guiding principles. And yes, I can see where those are applicable to this business and many others, really. That's perfect for speakers who think they're getting into the speaking business so they can be on the stage a lot. But if they're not able to have those conversations and turn them into getting hired, then they're not going to be on many stages, right?
It's so true. And you have to remember, most decision makers have never been taught how to have that conversation with an outside expert or a speaker. They don't know how to have those conversations. No one teaches them how to do that. The only people inside of organizations who are taught how to buy are those in supply chain or procurement. And those are typically the people buying paper clips and brake pads, right? They're buying for things into their supply chain and their office supplies and things like that. They're not buying expertise. And so they're not usually involved, and God help us when they are involved, right? But the other decision makers inside the organization, they don't really get that training. on how they should even be having a conversation with you. And so you end up in a situation where they don't really know what they should ask. You don't really know how to lead the conversation. Creates a lot of inefficiency, a lot of frustration. And you ask, there was an interesting study. It was done years ago by a huge consulting firm, and they looked at decision makers who've hired outside experts, consultants, service providers, and they asked them what their sort of satisfaction level was, how much value that they were getting from their outside experts that they were spending all this money with. And then they asked the same outside experts that question, how much value do you think you're delivering? And the outside expert said 88%. And the decision maker said 8%.
Whoa.
And so it was this huge, like Grand Canyon size, gulf between them. And so sometimes folks are really hesitant to take control of that conversation, but really you're saving decision makers from themselves because they don't really know how to lead the conversation anyway.
Oh boy. I've got to ask you, give us a tip of how to get that conversation back under your control as the speaker who's trying to direct towards getting hired. Sounds like you have some probably some really great tips.
Yeah, we do. I mean, it's something that we teach in depth at BoldHaus. But the first thing that we teach our clients how to do is just politely, respectfully, but confidently let the decision maker know what the process will be at that stage. This isn't your process for how you deliver your talk or what happens after they sign the contract with you. This is the sales part that I'm talking about. And you thank them for their interest, tell them how thrilled you are. And then you say to them, in our case, we have 4 steps that we have our clients walk the decision makers through. But whatever those steps are going to be for you, you let them know. You say, I'm so excited. I'm really thrilled. Let me share with you before we go any further what our initial process looks like, because it's probably quite a bit different than what you're used to. However, this process is central to why our clients get such incredible results and are so happy in their work with us and the results they're seeing. So you're letting them know that this part of the process right here is a central tenet in why your clients love you. And then you walk them through. You would say, so our first step is going to be this. And we always recommend that that's a quick flyover of a right fit. And I'll talk more about that in a second. So you do your right fit conversation. And then you might have, in our case, our clients really lay out their journey, their capabilities. And then they go into needs clarification, and then they go into co-creation. I think a lot of people mistake, they go straight into discovery. That's a huge mistake because you're basically poking the patient with a stick, trying to figure out what hurts, and you haven't really established any trust or rapport or credibility with them. And so I used to be a decision maker. And I still am. I mean, we're an Inc. 5000 company. So we buy a lot of things. And the second somebody goes into discovery too early, they're going to lose me as a decision maker because they're poking around and I'm not really comfortable yet. We don't have that relationship. In terms of that right fit conversation, I'll tell you, you always want to know which questions based on your business that you need to be asking. Very early on in the first 5 minutes, you want to know, is this a real opportunity? And not every time that a decision maker reaches out to you, is it a real opportunity? Think about however many proposals or sales paths you've gone down that they decided not to hire a speaker, not to hire a coach or a consultant. They just did nothing after you dropped everything and then it didn't move forward. So is this a real opportunity? And number 2, if it is a real opportunity, do you actually want it? And I think over the years, as you're a professional working with organizations and clients, you start to pick up on red flags, right? And it is very rare that you will have a nightmare client that you look back on and go, wow, I didn't see that coming. Almost always you go, man, I knew this was going to be a problem. So that's what you're looking for. Is this a real opportunity? And if it is a real opportunity, do I want it? Is it a right fit for us? And I think learning even that step of the process is going to help you not count your chickens before they're hatched. And you look at just how much time is wasted, folks thinking they've got an opportunity that's baking in the oven, and it's not real. There's no urgency on the side of the organization, or they mistake franticness for urgency. And really those frantic opportunities often, they burn out very fast.
Absolutely. That is great advice for professional speakers, people who are new in the business, people who've been in the business for a while, and even those who've been around for a long time. That is some golden advice there. I really appreciate you sharing this with us and all of your support for speakers and for people who are trying to get their message out into the world and make a big impact. What's the best way for folks to connect with you as well as to work with you?
Absolutely. So the first thing is I'm the only Angelique Rewers on LinkedIn. So that is just a great way to stay up to date on the things we're doing and the insights that I share frequently on LinkedIn. But of course, you can head to BoldHaus.com as well. There's a fantastic quick start guide there for folks who are really looking to build a firm around their business. You don't want to be just living from this client opportunity to that client opportunity. Essentially, the new version of paycheck to paycheck is client to client.
Yeah, Angelique, you've been a longtime sponsor of NSA, which we really appreciate. What benefit do you see that NSA has to our professional members?
For us at BoldHaus, we speak at a lot of events. We're out there in the marketplace. It is a no-brainer for us to be involved with NSA because the quality of the community is unparalleled. It's absolutely fantastic. And then the quality of the experiences combined with the quality of the content. And so we are what we associate ourselves with, right? And so for us to have the opportunity to really engage with folks who are taking their speaking business seriously, who are true change agents in the world. They have messages that need to be heard by organizations all over the planet, and then who are curating. I mean, NSA really curates the information and the strategies that speakers need to succeed in today's marketplace. It is more crowded and more competitive than it has ever been. And there is so much information online, but not all of that information is high quality, is actionable. And I think for us, what's really important to BoldHaus, and again, we've been around for 19, 20 years now, is we like to partner and support organizations that bring that same level of world-class knowledge and community and professionalism and just really understand that world-class nature of supporting their community, which we do at BoldHaus, and it aligns so well for us with NSA, but also the change agent community. And one of the parts of our mission at BoldHaus is that we want to transform organizations from the inside out. And I would just say to all of your speakers who are part of NSA, one, you're doing the right thing because you need to have that competitive edge in today's market, but also think about how you're going to have your message transform those organizations. And when you're driven by that transformation, it really elevates the way that you're thinking. But we love NSA. We've been a part of NSA now for, I think we're going on 7 years. And it's been really important to us. And we're looking forward to the next 7.
Well, I can feel your passion, and I have a similar passion for the organization. I've been around, I think I'm in my 21st or 22nd year, and just always energizing and a fantastic group. I say that, and truthfully, that most every good thing in my life has come from NSA. And so with that, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Speakernomics. If you want more bookings, credibility, and connections, your NSA community is waiting for you. Join NSA today. Click the link below and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and download this podcast wherever you listen.